Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of Her Stories. I'm super excited about my today's guest. I have the fabulous, incomparable Kate Cardoso on the call. So, Kate, welcome to Her Stories.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
As I start off every Her Stories, I start off with why this person inspires me. To be truthful, when I start coming up with a list of women that inspire me, Kate was always on the top of my list. I say that truthfully because I've known Kate now, we were just talking about how many years, like 22 years we've known each other. And the minute I met her, she just has a smile that lights a room. There's kindness behind her. She just, no matter what you do with Kate, she gives it 150%. And to me, seeing her, following her, watching what she's done over the last years is so inspiring. You walk the talk, you say you're going to do things, and I think your commitment to what you're passionate about is just unparalleled. And so I'm a huge fangirl and just been love seeing how you've evolved as a woman and a mother and a wife and everything in between. So that leads into why I find you incredibly inspiring is a lot of the causes that you work on, from social responsibility, political activism, and whatnot. So I'd love you to talk about who you are, what you do, and let's just kind of kick it off and let's hear more from you, Kate.
Oh, you're so kind. Wow, there's a lot to cover. So we met obviously professionally. It was my first job out of college. I was doing a marketing events specialist, and you were doing PR. Is that correct?
Yes, PR and
Um,
relations. Yes.
and yes, and so that was first experience. It was so great to have you as a friend at Silverstream Software. We had a good group of people, and it was fun. You were kind of the more professional and the more successful, talking with all the big wigs, but you were so kind and supportive of the people that were newer and a little bit more junior. So that was fun. I got into event planning from there and have been doing corporate event planning for the last 20 years, mostly high-end incentive travel programs. It's this job that people hear about and they say, "Oh my God, that sounds amazing." And it really is amazing to travel the world and stay in really nice places. Just really a dream. The work is hard. They're long days. It's actually one of the ranked one of the most stressful jobs, which is crazy. It's up there with firefighting and policemen and surgeon, and it seems a little silly, but all the details and something always goes wrong with travel. As you know, you travel all the time,
Yeah.
and so that was great. Really loving my career doing that. Although I have been a person who for whom giving back is very important, and being involved in helping those who are less fortunate or who are more in need has been something that has been really important to me. My mother was a social worker for
Mhm.
DCF, helping children in foster care and in the adoption process. My father was a probation officer. So I come from two parents who really gave back so much as part of their full career. So I was not doing that with my high-end corporate incentive travel. So that was really something that felt like it was missing for me. But I was traveling so much, there didn't seem to be the time to really get involved in my own community because I was traveling all the time. So to be part of a board or to have a
Mhm.
consistent volunteering opportunity wasn't realistic. So then, 2016, it came, and it was a really tough time for me because of the politics that were happening in the country. And I don't think that we need to delve too deep into the details. You and I have had a lot of offline conversations about this, but
And it was
I
a
was
rude
horrified.
awakening, like horrified. You and I couldn't be more similar. It
Yeah.
was like nothing, I don't think anyone's ever experienced to that level. And you and I were gutted
Uh,
about
couldn't
it.
believe that it was happening. Couldn't believe that it then happened. And I know we're going to talk about having kids and how do you get
Mhm.
your kids to be involved and caring and being good people. But I at the time, it's 2016. I had I think it was probably 7-year old, two girls, a 7-year old and let's say a 5-year old.
Yeah.
And so I really lost it. That was a breaking point for me, and they witnessed that. And I think that it had some long-term impacts on them. Anxiety, my youngest remembers that time, and then a couple of years later, she ended up having a lot of anxiety. And I think it was seeing your parent break like that. And maybe it made you less secure with the world that you lived in. And so I think ultimately it
Mhm.
has made her stronger. It will make her stronger as my whole family. But it was hard for so many reasons.
And she was so
And
young, and she was so young, Kate. Both your girls were super young.
yeah.
One question I had for you, when you were younger, did your parents have you volunteer? Was that part of the DNA of your family? Like, because people did, my father did the same, and that was just my activism. I just always had that fight for what you believe in, was really what he felt. Did your parents, because you saw what they did, but did you also do volunteering and be part of that?
Yes, they would
Interesting.
drag me and
Yeah.
my three siblings to do. There was a once a month supper that we would bring to a place that provided hot meals to people
Mhm.
in need, and we hated it. And what is so funny is that I later became involved with an organization, Man, a Community Kitchen, in the same exact space that my parents would drag me. I was then dragging my own children. So full circle.
Yeah, full circle. So when were you honest talking to your kids because they were so young? Because they see you, they know you, but how was it? Because I feel like I never thought I'd be so honest and transparent with my kids. My kids are older, but not much that I was like, we didn't have this rhetoric growing up. We were kind to people, we were generous. Did you have to have that talk? And were they, because you're such a fantastic mother, but it's hard because what do you want to share with them? And you want to shield them with some of the things. So, how did you juggle that kind of sharing but not oversharing because they were little?
It was really hard, especially because of the kind of person I am. I can't hide
Hmm.
my feelings, and I think it's if I do, I feel it in my body.
Yeah.
If something is bothering me, I feel it in my body. And so for me, I have to talk about things, but I didn't want to make them more scared than they had to be, even though I was more scared than I had ever been. And there were
Yeah.
people, family members who said, "Oh, you're sharing too much, or you're doing this and that and the other
Right.
thing," but I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
And I remember the morning after the election crying with my 7-year-old daughter in her bed because she said, "Hey, did Hillary win?" And I said, "No." And we just cried.
Yeah.
So it was just part of, I had to be open with them. I had to say, well, this happened, but then it made me such a better person.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it was a good thing. I hate saying that, but I then,
Your voice came like we always had the
yes,
similar, but what I think you did even exponentially more than I did, your voice became loud. Your
I
voice
had to.
became, and you
Yeah.
picked the different, and I'd love to, talk about, because to me, you had issues that you're like, absolutely not, this is not right, human right, like you just, to me, you weren't afraid. And I think that was so inspiring to me because you're like, all bets are off. Like,
It was.
and it was.
It
Yeah.
was. I didn't, my biggest fear, and I travel a lot internationally. My biggest fear was that either in the US or traveling, people would think that I was a supporter. That was
Yeah.
my biggest fear. I didn't want anybody to think that there was any possibility that
Yeah.
I was supporting that. So I chose Love Trumps Hate as my slogan.
Yeah.
And
And
I
you
wore
had you had it on
shirts,
your backpack. You had like all like
buttons.
you had it
Yes.
buttons. I loved the pictures of you traveling, and it was like, I'm gonna say this right now, and you could look at all, which, following in social media, I find it like it was just because that's the way I am proud to wear the Love Trumps Hate. I have all of that. I have HRC,
Yeah.
I'm proud.
Yes.
Every work call, I have it on my back.
Yes.
It's who I am.
I needed people to know, but not only that, I needed to have it as a reminder
Yeah.
about how to be a good person. And
Yeah.
it was like, if I'm wearing this, I have to be a good person. It's
Yeah.
so funny, Elaine, and you probably saw this. My husband, a little bit belatedly, he got me a license plate, and it says "Love Win." And you know what? I had wanted this years ago, but he just got it for me this year. And when I'm driving my car with my Love Win license plate, I'm like, I better let that person in. Like, I got to be a good person. I
You
gotta
can't, no
not be a
shell. That's
no.
great.
I can't be a jerk. I can't drive
Yeah.
around this car
Do
and
people
not be a
beep at
nice
you and
driver.
wave to you and stuff? Do you see? Because that I love license plates, and that's
No,
so
but you
great.
know what? So I live in Northampton, Mass. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
been here, but this is a liberal enclave. And so people, I think, see the license plate and they say, only in Northampton, you know? So it's, I'm
That's
in a
so
very supportive community. So this is
that's
no
so great.
surprise to see a license plate like that.
So were you ever worried, Kate, about the work crossover? Because years ago you didn't share your voice, in my opinion, people didn't share their voice in fear of their job. I do think that's switched, and I'm seeing it from, I work for SAP. We had a whole day yesterday talking about be who you're meant to be, and no one should judge you. And I think yours, like, I do think that corporations are now like, you can blend your personal beliefs with work, not dangerously so, but like, or maybe that's not the right word. Were you ever nervous about work being like, hey, Kate, or no, you felt in your space what you do? Do you ever have backlash basically from it?
I didn't. There were some tricky situations with colleagues and clients who I knew how they felt and they knew how I felt, and we typically wouldn't engage about it. But I never got any backlash. But at the same time, I didn't shy away from wearing my shirts or putting my button on, because I thought it was really important for people to know, and then they could either engage with that in a conversation or they could not, and it was up to them.
Yeah.
But I never, fortunately, I guess I never had situations, but I did have certainly have clients and colleagues who were the opposite of how I
Do you,
felt.
do you have anyone that ever confronted you from outside of work? Did you ever get in any? Because I've
Yes.
definitely had some weird situations where I'm like, I wore something and someone would come up to me and it's like, I just want a healthy conversation. And it always ended up being a little more aggressive. Did you have that experience?
So I would I run and I do races, and so I would always wear a Love Trump's Hate shirt from 2016 through to, let's call it, 2000. And so there was the St. Patrick's Day race in Holyoke, and I'm running, and there's a guy with a Trump hat, and I think I ran up to him and I kind of pointed at my shirt, and we ended up giving each other a high five. But I did get some comments, mostly supportive, again based on where I am in Massachusetts. I did mostly get supportive comments about any of my apparel.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, as you said, with the election, with everything, you really you became more active. Talk about how you juggled. I mean, we talked about it. You travel a lot. Obviously, COVID shifted some things. Do you want to talk about like how did you get more involved? Because you've been president of boards, and I'd love to hear more about how do you pick your organizations that you volunteer, but how do you? Let's do how you pick the organizations, and then how do you juggle it? Because that's people think you need to have exponential amount of time to try to juggle, and sometimes just doing a little bit it means so much. You do obviously a lot more, but I'd love to hear kind of that.
Well, and I think that it's important to talk about my personality as part of this, because I am a person that needs to always be doing something,
It's the
or
day
my
I met
head,
you, I knew that.
yeah, my head
Idle
spins.
hands, idle hands. Yes.
So, so I am lucky and unlucky in that respect, because I always need to be doing something so I can get a lot done. But it also drives most people in my life crazy. So one organization that I have loved and been working with volunteering for years is Girls on the Run. And it makes sense, right? If I'm a runner, I've got girls, all right? So it does make sense. But it is such a wonderful, powerful organization in teaching girls, in particular, third through sixth grade, fifth or sixth grade. Not only running is so secondary, honestly, to this program. It's about teaching them how to empower themselves, how to be kind to themselves and to other people, how to think through their emotions and their feelings and express themselves. I learned as a full grown adult woman so much about how to treat myself and other people through this program. So that is an organization that I have loved. I've coached quite a few seasons, both, of course, both of my kids, because I was a coach, want nothing more to do with it. But it's such a valuable, and it ends with this big 5K race,
Mm-hmm.
not even a race. It's just a run. They really take all the competition out
Mm-hmm.
of this. But it's this, it feels like this rally for girl empowerment. If you haven't been to one, Elaine, I'm sure
Yeah.
there are some in
Yes.
Atlanta, but it's just this feel good moment for these girls who have just finished a 5K, and maybe it was the first 5K they've ever run, and they're feeling really strong. And
Yeah.
it just teaches them lessons that hopefully they take with them for their whole lives. So that's been a really important and meaningful organization for me. When COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
there weren't any meetings or events or travel happening. So I, with this spinning mind, I was going crazy. The kids were here doing remote school. My husband was working from home, and so I felt, I was feeling like I need to do something. Here we are. We have a house. We have warmth. It was in the winter when it started. We have warmth. We have food. We have toilet paper.
Yeah.
And so I said, I need to help people who don't have this. So I started volunteering in a homeless shelter. They turned the high school into a homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, looking back, it was a little crazy. It was a little crazy. It was a little risky for me to be leaving my family and going into this environment. We didn't know what was happening with the virus. Was
Yeah.
there the potential for me to get COVID while I was doing this? Absolutely, but I felt like I had to. I felt like I had to, and it made me feel kind of like a bad mom. I'm over it, but here I was leaving my kids to go and volunteer in a homeless shelter because it was something that I needed. So it felt a little, it was selfish and selfless all at the same time,
Yeah.
but felt more selfish than anything else. And so that was so powerful to be in that environment. And the big thing in this shelter was coffee. And so we had a little coffee station, and people would come and they would kind of hang out 6 feet apart, sometimes not. And you'd hear their stories. And so I created this called the Kind Cafe. And so 2 or 3 times a week I would bring in a cooler with some specialty creamers, the vanilla,
Yeah.
French vanilla, and I'd make some mochas. And I got some local kids in the community to draw some signs, some positive, encouraging signs, and I
Yeah.
taped them up on the walls. And hearing these stories
Mm-hmm.
of where these people had come from. Some of them had been unhoused for years.
Yeah.
Some of them had become unhoused because of circumstances around the pandemic where they just couldn't afford to pay their rent. And it was so rewarding to be there, but also so traumatic to hear these stories. We talked earlier about our childhoods, which were idyllic compared to most,
Yeah.
and we're
And you
so
forget. We're
lucky.
so yeah, you're so removed, and then you hear these stories, and because I feel that way with. I volunteer at Lost and Found organization for runaway LGBTQ plus, and it's the
Wow.
largest homeless population in Atlanta.
Yeah,
And every
yeah,
time I hear the stories and there's kids around, and it's just you forget every day 99% of us are lucky, if not
right,
more.
right,
And it's you hear these stories, and it's people are like, oh, it's drugs, it's this, and it's like there are so many more factors you can't comprehend what people of hardship in life, you know.
right. And I'm not religious, but for the grace of God go I, right? It
Yeah.
could be me. It could be my daughter. It could be my brother.
I
It
think a
could be my
lot's luck.
friend.
It's luck. It's just
Luck.
opportunity. It is what it is. It's just sad,
Right.
but that's.
Yeah.
So how long so after COVID, did you still stay helping to volunteer there? How did you?
I did. So they ended up closing that shelter, but in the meantime, I had gotten involved with this organization called Man a Community Kitchen,
Yeah.
and so they were providing hot meals, and it was the same organization that I went to as a kid, dragged by my parents in the
Mhm.
same church, and so, but they've been doing the work in the community, hot meals in the community for
Mhm.
30 years, and so I started volunteering with them, and I don't cook. I don't. I'm horrible. I
Love
can't chop
it.
vegetables. I can wash vegetables maybe, but I would, I'm an organizational person. So I would be on the assembly
Mhm.
side, setting all the containers up to do the to-go meals. And The meals that this organization put together were restaurant quality,
Hmm.
and they were amazing. And this organization was all about respect and dignity and treating the guests um, like they were our customers, and they were just coming to get a hot meal. And so I became really involved volunteering there. I joined the board. We ended up creating a community center in the space for people to come and
And is it
charge
all your
their.
local community?
Yeah, it's right, it's a mile down the street from me, but we have a lot of people that come into Northampton because they know that there are services in
Mhm.
Northampton. So there is and there is the population, the unhoused population, I think, is going up everywhere. Big
Yeah,
cities, small
agreed.
cities, towns. So there certainly has been an influx since COVID. So we created this community space where people could come. They could shower, they could do laundry, they could charge their electronics, they could just kind of sit down and relax and not be outside. And also it was an opportunity to connect them to different services.
Hmm.
Housing, it's so hard to housing. I mean, that's the number one social service issue that we've got here. So much is tied to housing, mental health resources, healthcare, substance use,
And you must
just
see
everything.
you must see the same every time I travel. I always talk to local people. Like when I was in London, I talked to some people in Barcelona, and I've been all over. Where else I was, Berlin. And they say we help our communities. The government, that is part of their job, is to make sure no one is sleeping on the streets. They have the meals, they have the mental health care, they have insurance coverage for any medical treatment they need. To me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, it's getting worse here. It
Mhm.
used to be from the housing, I mean, affordable housing. It's so sad. You go to a lot of our large cities, Atlanta has a problem, San Francisco's, has tremendous
Yeah.
problems. Do you see hope in the future that we can make a difference where this is just, because I just think it exponentially has gotten worse. And going to the other countries, I'm like, they've got it figured out. What is our problem? And
Yeah, I don't, we are not addressing these issues. And so it's really up to the nonprofit organizations to fill in these huge gaps.
yeah,
And I hope that they can continue to do that until, government is
can
able
help.
to enact some new policies that will address mental health issues, crisis. Really, let's call it
Yeah,
what it is.
it
It's
is
a
a
mental
crisis.
health crisis,
Yeah.
addiction,
Hmm.
and they're so closely intertwined.
Yes.
Mental health crises and addiction, and then housing. So it's like the trifecta. And
Yeah.
there so many people are touched by at least one of those three
Yeah.
things, if not
Yeah.
all of those three things at the same time. So it really is up to the nonprofit
Yeah.
organizations to step in and fill this until we have some governmental policies that help.
And I believe, what you do, giving back to your local community. Sometimes, I talked to someone and they said, oh, the big organizations. And we then said, where you really make the difference is grassroots. It is from a
Hmm.
political standpoint, but it is giving back to your community. It is that social responsibility. It's, years ago, there was that saying of like, not my backyard. It's like, no, but it is in your backyard. We
It will
need to
be.
help each
Yeah.
other. It will be. And I know no one wants to have some of these services in their area because of it changes their property value, whatever. But you have to help local communities. You have to make a difference. And I think it's, finding what you love doing. Every community has something that you could go, oh, this is where I want to make a difference and help give back.
You're so right. And giving back feels so good.
It does. It does.
That's the amazing thing. That's the amazing thing about it. You get so
Mhm.
much out of it.
More
Yeah,
more than it takes. That's
more than
it's
so much more.
like I always, and I've been volunteering for years. Obviously, depending on work, as we talk about
Yeah.
juggling life, work, kids, life, like everything in the middle. I always feel it's the first thing to go, but it's the thing that makes me the happiest.
Yes.
It always
Right.
has made me happy, and the kids
Yeah.
see me leaving to go volunteer, and get other people to volunteer. And I
Right.
just, to me, I'm probably the happiest when I'm giving back, and I
Yeah.
leave a place and go, I just made a difference for 4 hours or whatever. And it's so minimal, like, but it
Yeah.
ends up making a difference in all these people's lives.
Right. Right. And making you feel better about your own life.
Yes. And making
Really,
you
it
more
just
grateful.
it's all a wonderful thing. So being involved with man and getting more people to volunteer and be part of it really it ended up being the only social time I had during the peak of COVID
Yeah.
was because it was the only acceptable way of getting together with people. And
Yeah.
we were all safe wearing masks and all of those things, but that was my social life. And so
Yeah.
when you do it and you do it with friends,
Yeah.
it checks all
The
the
boxes.
boxes for being wonderful.
So, as we talk about, like, you're traveling so much now, as the events, as we talked about, like, the events world shut down, the events world's back up now and running. People are really traveling a lot more. How do you do? So, I've seen you do things while you're traveling, and you still, even though we talk about the grassroots of your local area, you're also taking it to even another step where you go places and you travel and then you do community service, and I'd love you to talk about that because I love that.
I love it too. It has changed, dramatically changed my relationship with my work because I mentioned before it was always lacking. I did these wonderful things, but there was no give back as part of it. I have that now, and how that happened was through my experience with
Yeah.
Mana.
Yeah.
Community kitchen, understanding a little bit more about food banks and how they work. And so the bad news is that there is food insecurity everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, Everywhere.
And
I did a program in
you travel everywhere.
everywhere,
Sorry. Yeah.
everywhere. Yep. So I went to Pebble Beach. I said, oh, I don't know that there's going to be huge. They have so many. They have so much migrant labor because it's
Oh.
America's food basket. So much migrant labor. There are so many children who are unhoused and living in
Yeah.
poverty, food insecurity. So basically, the point is there is need everywhere. There is food insecurity everywhere. So the experiences that I had at Mana, I brought the idea to a company that I do most of my work with, and I
Hmm.
said, hey, because we were trying to reimagine how to do group travel post COVID. And I said this could be a really important component of what we do.
Yeah.
So now, as part of every program that we do, there's a CSR initiative, corporate social responsibility initiative, mostly focused on food security. So I've done an initiative, and so we're taking people to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I mentioned that because
Yeah.
we saw each other there years ago.
Yeah.
And so they're there and they're on an incentive and they're doing activities. They're doing catamaran. They're having a welcome dinner and a farewell dinner. They're getting gifts, but they're given the opportunity for 1 hour the last full day to go to the hotel ballroom and put together packets of food, non-perishable food items and hygiene supplies for people in need that then get delivered to a food bank. In particular, it's
Yeah.
usually a food bank. And so this allows me to make a difference
Hmm.
everywhere I go as part of my job, and the impact on the attendees that it has taken these incentive travel programs
Hmm.
to a whole other level, and people have said, wow, this was great. I'm going to get involved in my own community. I'm going to go home and get
That's
involved in my own
amazing.
community. So on so many, there's an impact in so many different ways on that local organization and the people in need in
Hmm.
that destination, on the people that are part of that program, hopefully inspiring them, encouraging them to go back to their own communities and get involved. Because if you're going to do that in a destination that really doesn't mean that much to you, how can you not do it in your own
Yeah.
community?
But I can't wait to see it expand because I feel, to me, if the airlines and the hotel industry would go, hey, people do want to, I would spend 100%. I wake up so early. I'd spend an hour in my morning at the beach going to do something to help something, some cause. I just think it's such a natural, like yesterday, my company had like a people day, but part of that was giving back for CSR. This one was like a mural painting for children that are sick in hospitals.
Oh,
So you get to do the painting, but last time we did Food for Hunger what was that, hunger, one of those where you make rice packets for community fed
Yes.
food, and
Yeah.
or like nutritional packets. And I love that we're now incorporating that into when we're together at work. Our company 100% believes in corporate social responsibility. And to me, businesses, I want to do business with companies that give
Yes.
back. I
Yes.
would like we always talk about like Patagonia. Patagonia has a
Mm,
fabulous political, first of all, mind of speaking their
hmm.
voice, but they also give back. And there's so many other companies like that that you want to do
Me
business
too.
with them.
Absolutely. I was on another podcast about a month ago, and a question was, and it was about these CSR initiatives, and it said,
Yeah.
should a purpose-led company be doing these on their corporate events, incentive travel programs? And my answer was, they're not a purpose-led company if they're not doing this
Right?
as part of their whatever it is, their conference, their meeting, their incentive travel program. And what we can do, and I've got 3 years of doing this, of experience, it's not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. So
Yeah.
if we can make it easy for companies to do this, and
Yeah.
we can make it easy for attendees to participate, it's a no-brainer.
And it's
It's
not
a no-brainer.
expensive. What I don't understand, like, I'm not saying there isn't a cost that I didn't realize when we did some of the CSR stuff and I was leading them. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize there was a cost for some
Yeah.
of these programs. Obviously, the company has to pay for certain pieces of it. You know, we talked about the nutrition food packs. Yes, I
Hmm.
understand. But there's also some that it's not a huge uplift. Like you're not making a
No.
company hurt their bottom line. In fact, I think it increases their bottom line by giving
Yes.
back, you
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it can be labor intensive. It can
Yeah.
be, there can be a lot of work that goes into it, but the ROI, right?
Yes.
Such an important thing. It is an
It
important
is.
thing as business people ourselves. We understand the importance of ROI, but the ROI on this kind of an initiative is huge,
Yeah.
and it really, and so I'm trying to, figure this out. It's so important to me. I really believe strongly in, if you're doing well,
Yeah.
then you need to do good. And so, what I am trying to kind of, we're all looking for our niche, right? And so, I would love to focus on, and I do a lot of this already, high-end luxury travel
Yes.
with purpose. And so
Love it.
I feel like
You and
those
I all
high
partner
end,
with you on that. I love it. I think
yeah,
you're right. I really do. I think
and
it is
there's the
such a
money.
need. There's money
They're
to
they're
need.
the better that you do, the
Yeah,
more good you should do. So if
absolutely.
we've got people who have that kind of companies that have that kind of budget, right?
Yeah.
People who are earning those trips, right?
Yeah.
Because part of what these corporate social responsibility initiatives, we provide a lot of information about the nonprofit that we're supporting,
Yeah.
with the idea that the attendees potentially will be making donations on their own. We don't ask them to. It's not a hard
Yeah.
sell, but it always happens that people are like, you know what, this was great. This organization seems amazing. I'm gonna donate $100. Whatever it
Yeah.
is. I had this program. It was amazing. It was in Sea Island, Georgia,
Mhm.
at the lodge. A very exclusive group. There were maybe, I think there were only 30 people, of top dealers for this company. And so we didn't ask them to do anything. The client said, we're going to make a donation on behalf of all the attendees, and we told them about this donation. We had those qualifiers matched the donation.
Yeah.
They weren't asked. They
Yeah.
they weren't asked. They said, you know what, we ended up raising this, out of this group of 30 people. We ended up raising, I want to say $6,500 for
Yeah.
a food bank in Georgia.
Yeah.
So there is
Mhm.
there's
And
so much
making a difference.
potential.
Well, and so you and I did marketing years ago where we always give out the tchotchkes, which are like, a cup, a USB thing, a pen. Like, I don't
Yes.
need another water bottle. I just
No.
don't. And so we've made the decision anytime we do an event in my group, we give out donation. Like, you pick
I love
anything,
that.
here's $75, $100,
I
and
love
you
that.
pick your organization that you want to give back to. And every single person that we've done it with is like, thank you. I don't want another water bottle. I
I
would
love
much
that.
rather pick my organization that you gave me a donation to give. And I
That's
love
such a good
it.
idea.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that to me is another way that companies, hey, just have a little few $1,000s and then see where everyone, and what's also interesting, you get to know people. I saw the
Mm,
people that really cared about these different topics, and I didn't know that that was a passion. And it ties
yeah.
it all together to you learn more about people of what their interests are. So I
Yeah.
found that fascinating as well.
You're so right. And it's more environmentally friendly not to do all of those tchotchkes.
And do
Uh,
we need any more chat? I mean, seriously,
no,
we
no.
don't.
I still, I'll go away for a week. I've got a carry on. I do not check my luggage. I don't have one little inch
Yeah.
left for any kind of tchotchkes. Don't give me tchotchkes.
I know it's so true. I'd much rather give back and whatnot. So, today I want to ask about like, so how are your girls viewing about things? Do you actively volunteer with them like at this current time? How do you do and how do they feel about all the things you do?
Yeah, they were very involved with Manna
Yeah.
when I was volunteering there. So at least one day a week they would go with me. That we'd run the Kind Cafe, or they'd help kind of package up food. So we haven't done that in a while because the last 6 months have been nuts. Have been away more than I've
Yeah, of
been
course.
home. It feels like, but they are very aware
Mhm.
of giving back, and they are very aware of helping people
And it's in
in
their
need.
DNA now.
Yes, and I hope that as much as they sometimes complain
And they're
about getting
becoming a
dragged.
teenager now today. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
right,
kicking
right.
and
So
screaming you did, you
it's
get
only
it
going to get
now.
harder. It's only going to get harder. So they definitely know, and my husband too. It wasn't necessarily part of what he did, but he was or of who he was, but he has supported this in amazing ways. Right, being
Yeah.
gone for 3 days a week during the height of the pandemic in a potential situation where I could get COVID. He knew I had to do it, and he supported that. And he's just more aware of it. And you know what? There are things that you can do, right? There's the donations that you can make, but there are also what I love in my own community is finding it's finding individuals,
Yeah.
who maybe need something, and it's maybe doing an anonymous scholarship to a dance place for
There's
someone who
always
wouldn't
something.
always, and you know what? You can become so overwhelmed by the need,
Yeah.
but helping one person individually who can feel so good, and it makes a difference. It really does make a difference.
And you can change someone's life, like just
Yes.
picking. And it's not, as we talk about, if you don't have the money, then use your time. If you have
Right.
both, give both.
Right.
And that's
Right.
where, to me, it doesn't have to be, because I know people always, there's always an excuse. And I just don't think there needs to be an excuse.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've probably seen it. I think you do the same thing for Thanksgiving. When they have, what is it, Black Friday? I use that to give back, and then the
Hmm.
Cyber Monday, I use that to give back. And to me,
Yeah.
my personality, as you know me well, I give back donations to like the Trevor Project. And if there's,
Yeah.
sorry, but a political side, there's a congressman that's against a bill, I'm about to donate in your name. And I know
Yes.
you hear people do that. That is so me. I
Yeah.
can't tell how many people I've contributed to just to say, I disagree with your point of view, and I'm now going to put a scholarship for your name in
Yeah.
something you don't agree with.
You put your money where your mouth is. I like the expression, be the light you want to see in the
Yeah.
world,
Yes.
because we all need to see the positivity, but
Yeah.
we rely on, too many of us rely on other people to create that positivity. We need to be part of it.
Yeah, we 100% do. So a few more last like questions, and I'm so I could talk to you about this forever. Where do you see yourself in the next few years? Like I always joke when I retire, I'm older than you. I always joke when I retire, all I want to do is give back. Like I picture my life just trying to help communities and travel. Me, the travel piece is huge, as you know.
Yeah.
What do you picture yourself in the next few years? Do you want to do more volunteering? Do you like kind of you're now bringing the CSR to your work, so it's almost the best of both worlds. But where do you see yourself in a few years with, CSR and volunteering and juggling life and family?
Yeah, and that has always been a really hard question for me to answer. And I don't know what it says about me, because I am a planner and I live in the
Yeah.
future, but I don't know what it says about me that I really struggle with that question, and
Mhm.
probably because you just never know what is going to happen in your
Right.
personal life and your professional life, with opportunities,
Mhm.
with setbacks. And so I don't know, and I'm not really focused on that, except that I want to continue to really promote CSR as part of
Yeah.
corporate group travel.
Yeah.
I really am hoping to take this luxury travel with purpose.
Yeah.
I really want to push that because I think that the impact from that
Mhm.
in terms of money, potential money donated, the potential to impact individuals to be part of it when they travel, be part of it in their own communities is huge.
Yeah.
Um, and retirement, I don't know what I would do with myself. I mean, I would
You're so
volunteer,
much
but
younger, so we'll get back. I'll interview again to ask you that question when you
you know,
catch up a little
my husband can't wait. He'd retire tomorrow. For me, I'm
bit.
like, I'm never going to retire. I
You're
can't.
never. I picture you just being busier than ever. Like
I can't
seriously, I
retire.
really do. But I love your thought on, getting this out for luxury travel with a purpose to me. I can't wait to see what you do with this because to me, this is an untapped market that just even talking, it's like, wow, you're so right. It's there's so much we can do, and I think a lot of these luxury brands, luxury companies can do these things.
Yeah.
So do you think we have hope for, like, it's been a hard few years. I
Mm,
see, current environment is still, my head's
still hard.
exploding pretty much every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Do you feel that we're going to get back to kindness? Like I joke that my first impression of you was kind. Your smile and your kindness, and that to me, that's why I'm like following your journey. You've never lost that. Do you think we can get back to others being like that? Like, do you think we're going to
I
boomerang again?
I hope so, but I think that it's going to take a lot of self-reflection
Hmm.
because we really can't be kind to others unless we're kind to ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think we need to do a lot of work on understanding that voice in our head. And I've seen this with both my daughters, and it's amazing how our worst enemy can be ourselves, and
Yeah.
that voice in our head that tells us bad things, not true things,
Yeah.
negative things. And so if we can be kinder to ourselves and feel
Mhm.
better about ourselves, then that gives us the confidence to be kinder and more
Yeah.
vulnerable with other people. And I feel so fortunate to have reached this point, 44 next
Mhm.
week,
Yeah.
where I am confident. I'm confident, but I'm also I'm humble. I know I make mistakes and I'm not perfect, but I believe in myself, and
Yeah.
that gives me the confidence to be a good friend and to not have jealousy and to not have anger and to,
Yeah.
sorry, not never, but most of the time,
Yeah.
just to be kind to myself and to be kind to others. And so if we are going to be more kind, it has to be internal and external. And I hope that this focus that we're now having on mental
Hmm.
health
Yeah.
will allow us to get there. So I hope so.
Yeah.
We have to hope so.
And I also feel like we're raising good humans. I mean, I'm like obsessed with my three kids and I
Yeah.
see their friends and I see your daughters. I have hope for the future because of what we're doing. They see us, it reflects in them, and we're building kind humans.
Yeah.
You've probably heard me say, my father always said, the most important thing is being character and being a kind human. He said that
Yeah.
30 years ago. He's like,
Yeah.
that, there's nothing more. And he always was the proud. He didn't care what we did, how much money we earned. He wanted us to be good humans.
Yeah.
And that's what you're raising good humans. I'm raising good humans. Everything else is an
You're
add-on
right.
to
You're
me.
right. It
And I
doesn't
feel,
matter.
and I love watching your girls smiling and knowing that they're the next generation. I really have hope. I feel like I've joked before that some of the older generations need to go away.
Yeah.
To start again to be that, and that we learn from our past. But I know I've taken up so much of your time. My
This has
last
been so
question.
fun.
I know I really, there's so many other topics I do want to talk to you about, so I'd love to have you back. My last question I ask everyone: what empowers you and what inspires you?
I am empowered by thinking that there are more good people than there are
Mhm.
bad people. And I am inspired to be one of those good people because I know that the balance is tenuous. And if we aren't all working really hard to make the world a better place, then Who knows what happens? But I'm inspired by individual people
Mhm.
like you, like Stacey Abrams,
Yes.
like Michelle Obama.
Mhm.
These powerful, in particular, women who
Mhm.
also are hopefully paving the way for other, in particular, women
Yes.
to have a moment to, because I think that that ultimately is what will make the world a kinder place, is to have more empowered women
Yeah.
um, with the right intentions, with the idea of opening doors for other people. We can't do this for ourselves. We need to
Yeah.
do it for others. So being part of that
Mhm.
movement, I guess, of empowered women opening the door for other
Mhm.
women is what gives me purpose and hope and inspires me to keep going.
Yeah, what a beautiful, that's beautifully said. And as Kate, you inspire me every day. Truly, I know that we haven't seen each other in a while and we're afar, but I love seeing what you do. I can't wait to see where your future leads you and
Oh,
your girls and your husband. And, everyone can make a difference. And I think
yes.
that that's what I was so excited to have to talk to you about, that we're going to make a difference by you sharing that, these are things you can do in your daily life to help others.
Right.
So thank you for inspiring me every day. I can't wait to see
Thank
you and hug you
you.
in person soon. And hopefully
I
one of these
know.
trips we've matched before, so we'll have to get in each other's calendars for that.
I'm gonna connect through Atlanta soon.
Exactly. And thank you, Kate. I look forward to having you again in another episode. There's tons of other topics we can talk about. But thank you for your time, and everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Her Stories, and there'll be another one coming soon.
Thank
Thank
you, Elaine.
you. Thanks.